Still covered in paint splatters because allegedly that's the fashion, they say. Boy here. Back in December 2020 when everyone was gone into lockdown and working from home and looking to buy webcams to do Teams and Zoom meetings and whatnot with. I did a full review on a new webcam that just hit the market about 5 or 6 weeks before that, called the AVerMedia PW513. It was a 4K webcam. Did my full review. Literally nobody in my audience cared about that video. Like, nobody watched it. I was quite surprised. That's cool though. But since then, a few thousand people have come across it and watched it. So there's a bit of interest there. So I thought I'll do a follow-up. Because this camera you're looking at right now, the AVerMedia PW513, since December, has completely changed. Everything that I said about that camera is essentially invalid now. It's totally transformed. Normally, that's tough, right? You know, you release your camera. Long story short, at the time when I released that video, camera was released to the market around November. I put my video out around December. So it was 4 or 5 weeks where it was out in the market. It was shocking. It was abysmal. It was absolutely horrendous. And that's tough, right? You blew it. But during the time I was putting my video together, I had quite a few communications with one of AVerMedia's technical support guys. He was polite, respectful, courteous, and really nice. A guy called Chamber. That goes a long way with me. So out of respect for their technical support team doing a really good job, I'm going to give them this follow-up video and say, look, your product's now really good. I actually genuinely do recommend it. So back in December, I'm not going to recover all of the points that I talked about in that other video because you can go and watch that. That other video is the full review, all the specs, the type of sensor, how it works, the requirements for the PC, all that kind of stuff. It's all in that other video. I'll link that up here and down in the description and the doobly-doos and all that kind of stuff. But that video looked like, the camera looked like this, right? That's what this camera looked like in the exact same room, the exact same lighting conditions, at the exact same time of day as you're looking at me right now. It's not even close. Like, what's happened? What's happened to this camera? Well, since December, they've released several software, driver, and probably more crucially, firmware updates for the hardware inside the camera. It is completely transformed. How is that the same as that? What you're looking at here was 4K. My skin was a mottled mess. There was so much noise in the background. Like, look at this. I looked sunburned, and there was nothing I could do. I could not reduce I could reduce the brightness and do the gamma trick, you know, reduce the brightness, increase the gamma, all that kind of stuff. Didn't make a difference. In this lighting, it was doomed. In order to get that camera to perform at any decent level, you needed studio lighting. Because with studio lighting, the sensor went from that to that. It was an instantaneous transformation of what the sensor was outputting when you turned on studio lighting. There was a ring light right in front of me. In artificial lighting, so where you've got like ceiling lighting, for example, it's dark, you've got spotlights in the ceiling. That's what my face looked like through this 4K camera. It was horrendous. And then that's what happened when apart from the goofy face, that's what happened when I turned on the studio light. It went from that to that with studio lighting on. It was horrendous. Long story short, you could not use this camera as a regular traditional webcam to do your work with, right? Put it on a monitor, do your meetings with, your conference calls, all that kind of stuff. It was only good to put in a studio where somebody had fixed studio lighting that they turn on, and most people don't have, right? And just to prove that that's not the case right now, this is my room as it is this very second, right? There is nothing behind me. There is a ring light, but it's off. There's a skylight above me, which there was previously. There is an LED light over there, but it's off. Outside right now, it's actually pretty dim. We're in the middle of March. It's overcast. The sun isn't out. It's cloudy. So it's not even a bright day. And this camera, I suspect, will get even better when the sun comes out after these updates. But as it is right now, this is incredible quality. And the price has dropped as well. It's now £180 on Amazon. There is also headroom for this to get even better. So I'll just take you through a few bits and pieces you can do. So these are the AVerMedia cam engine settings. So I'll just spam the default. You see that is default, right? Everything is default. In the advanced settings, you can increase the backlight compensator, which will lift the brightness up a little bit. If you find that the stock settings were a bit too dark, you can bump those up a little bit. In the filters, you've got these smoothing things, but you know, At default, you still do get a bit of, you can see it's around here. There's a bit of fuzziness going on in the white texture on the wall. It's just a flat white wall. You know, it just starts to get a bit messy. I don't like smoothing filters, right? I'm proud of my wrinkles. I own them. I'm just going to leave that off. The effects stuff, mate, what is this about? Like, who buys a web camera like this and wants to put like an afro on their head or a rabbit ears? I mean, leave this crap for Snapchat, right? You know what I mean? If there was something useful here that wasn't a child mouse hat, right? Fine. But this is just all child stuff. Why? Come on. Someone was paid to put this in. You know what I mean? And then you've got the AI framing. It's kind of a duplication of what you tend to get in most meeting software anyway, but it'll frame you better within the webcam and then reduces sort of the field of view. And then it'll follow you around if you do move a lot whilst you're on a conference. But yeah, when you're working from home, you tend to not want the background, like most people anyway, because they've got the kids and the wife walking around in the background. So they'll blur that out anyway with Teams or Zoom AI blurring or pictures that they'll put in the background. But yeah, that'll sort of follow you around. It's a pretty good job, actually. It's not overly aggressive. It's not sort of jerky or anything. It's pretty smooth. It's fluent. So yeah, I personally don't use it, but I can see how that would be useful. So that's AI framing. And yeah, that's the cam engine settings. In addition to that, there is headroom for this picture to get even better than it is now, right? This is completely stock. Like I said, it's 12:30 in the afternoon in the UK, in the middle of March. It's overcast outside, so it will get better with a brighter day. But if you take the brightness and crank this right the way down, you can still do the gamma trick, right? You go into OBS settings, which I can't show you because it's in OBS. But if you increase the gamma in OBS, brightness down in cam engine, gamma up in OBS, it's probably subjective, but what's just happened now, I feel, is a lot better than what it was in stock settings. And this is still just natural lighting, right? And then you can just increase the saturation a little bit if you feel like you're a little bit too monochrome. And then you increase the saturation and put a bit of color in your face. The contrast, that's kind of bang on with this camera. Any increase in contrast, it starts to look a bit either washed out or a bit too noisy. So the contrast tends to be pretty on point. That's awesome quality. Like I'm really impressed with how that's coming out at the moment. Okay, in addition to that though, if you do have a ring light, an LED ring light, not everyone does, but I don't know, maybe your wife's got or your girlfriend's got a makeup light, you know, like one of these little small tabletop ring lights that they use for putting the makeup on. If you've got one of those, put that behind your camera. This can happen. Camera, yet again, transforms into a totally different kettle of fish, mate. Look how good this is. Look at the clarity. Look at the color. Look at the depth. Look at the detail. And this is optional. You don't even need to do this now. In December, you had to do this. You had to turn the ring light on to get this level of detail. You don't have to now. This is just like an extra bonus level of headroom that you've got. And in addition to that, the ring light isn't even on that bright. I would say this is probably on about 40 to 50% brightness. I can look directly at the ring light and see the individual LEDs. In December, the way this camera was, in order to get this level of clarity, I had to put the ring light on at 100%, which made this impossible. I couldn't even look at the camera with the ring light behind it. It was that bright. I mean, I've got images of look at this. This is what I was like in the original video. The ring light was so bright. It was ridiculous. But now, yeah, even with the G7, the aperture is at 1.8, so it's quite open. And yeah, I can just casually look around. It's not that bright. I can work like this. I'd rather not work with a ring light behind the camera, but yeah, it's not that uncomfortable now. It's totally transformed, mate. Like everything's changed with this camera. It's mental. The firmware updates that they've introduced made the world a difference. I now wholeheartedly, thoroughly recommend this camera the way it is right now, as long as they don't release any further updates and goof it up. But excellent camera. Stock settings, incredible. Probably not if it starts to get a bit dark. I would suspect when it starts to get a bit darker, you're going to start to lose a bit of detail. You're going to start to lose quality. But yeah, in natural light, it gets a thorough recommendation from me. If you want to buy it, links in the description. Amazon, there's a global one link there that'll redirect you to your local Amazon store. Just check the link first, or check the page that you land on first, because one link tries to match it to the closest product. If there isn't one there, it'll take you to something else. So just check that first. But yeah, I'm using this every day at the moment for my Teams meetings, and it's been, look at this. Staggered. That's a webcam, 180 quid. Yeah, one of the best on the market now, I'd say. And just adding this in at the end, forgot to talk about it. This is a 1080p 60. It's improved a lot since December. It's still nowhere near as good as 4K. My face is blown out quite considerably, but you can see it's fluid, smooth. And yeah, a lot better than it was. Wouldn't choose to use this over 4K. Whether there's work to be done here or if this is as good as it gets, I don't know. Yeah, this is 1080p 60. And this is a complete stock settings. Absolute out the box stock. Same lighting conditions as I had at 4K. I'm literally just recording this straight after the other piece. There you go. 1080p 60. And if you do the brightness down, gamma up trick with 1080p 60, it looks a bit better. The white patches have gone from my face. But yeah, it's a bit noisy. You're starting to get noise into the canvases, and you can see noise into the hoodie there. It's getting a bit noisy there. Nowhere near as good as 4K, but yeah, it's workable. If you want to be in 60 frames per second, this will work. Just need probably better lighting than what I've got here. There you go. That's all I've got. Thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Yes.